AI thing was on.
I saw the
Um,
same thing for the first
yes,
time ever, so
Yeah,
it's
same.
I theoretically turned it off, but I don't know if you can actually even do that. There's somebody tracking me. Hang on. Remind me later. All right, so this is the Rauscher Farm Management Subcommittee on the 11th of February in the year 2026, calling us to order at 6 minutes past 3. Okay,
6 minutes past
I
6.
I did stop it. Oh, Dean is requesting me to stop the AI companion. I did stop it, but I've tried it again.
Oh, there, it just
Okay,
says turn it off.
it should have gone now. All right.
Great.
All right. So here we go, folks. I run out of time to complete the minutes. So first of all, the first thing in our agenda is the minutes for January, which I would like okay, 6:03, I have to say. Call to order. Oh no, sorry. Sorry. First of all, we have to do a roll call that we're here. All right, everybody.
Dean Briggs present.
Dave Notaro present.
Christine Latini present.
Alan Pratt, present.
Gloria Parkinson present.
Jim Webster present.
Okay, so, all right, so the first, because I explained I didn't finish the minutes, so I'm going to need a motion to table the minutes of January the 14th, 2026.
I'll make that motion. Table the minutes of January 2026 minutes until next month.
Okay. Oh, yes, I like the
I'll
deadline. Thank you
second
very
that.
much.
My pleasure.
Who was the second?
I'll second it.
Thank you very much, Dean. To next month. All right. I do not see any members of the public here today, so we will go on to the agenda items. The usual first thing is checking in. Wow, haven't we had wonderful snow, by the way? Right? So I'm thinking nobody did anything with equipment since the last meeting, unless you want to disabuse me of that notion.
Hope not.
No? Okay, so there was
Unless we count our own snow blowers.
no, they're not that's cheating. That's what you do at home. That's your recreation. I would like to say though that there were parking spaces cleared by the town, right? So they had snow plowed the spot where the porta potty usually is. They had snow plowed where the lean-to is. They had not risked the major one, but I can understand because that ground is, where would you put that, right? So there was parking available through these major snowstorms, and people were up there using the parking. Okay, so we have nothing to update on equipment and trails, etc. The one thing I would ask of you guys, because I mentioned this in the discussion document, that could someone provide a written record of the areas that were not covered in that conservation mow? I mean, obviously the big grassland meadow, right?
I'm not sure how to do that because we spot mowed a couple of spots, but we didn't do any major mowing up there. So it'd pretty much say nothing was mowed, except there's a few places we can mention that. I mean, I think Alan mowed some up in the northwest field, and I
Yeah,
mowed I mowed just around the pollinator meadow. And
Okay.
and I'm not sure. I think didn't somebody? Yeah, somebody mowed the hillside across from
I,
Dave's house, right? That was you, Alan, or
I mowed most of that
yeah,
hillside. Yeah, I'd
Okay.
say 3/4 of it.
yeah.
Well, okay, let me rephrase that. Can we just would someone like to take their action item just to write down what you've just said and then send it by email. So just so we have a written record of what we have done, right? Just to
And
keep
and and
tabs
so
on it.
so Gloria, should this include mowing in places where Sam does not typically mow, or just where he usually mowed?
Oh,
And,
oh. good point.
Because that's like that hillside that Alan mowed is something that Sam doesn't mow, but we usually mow on our own. I think Dean
Okay.
usually mows it most
Okay.
years. And
Let me rephrase the whole thing then, based on Alan and your point, Jim. Could we just have a list of what we did mow regardless of category for
Okay.
the fall? If someone could make, you guys can do it by email.
Right.
Could you do that by email?
yeah, okay, yeah, whatever. Yep.
Okay,
Yep, yep.
just so we know. All right, so that was, okay. All right. Now, thank you. And yes, so the management, well, okay, where have I got to now? So I'm just looking at some of the various areas of the habitats, right? Because I put this out of sequence in my list, I see. Okay, for the woodland management, I just want to double check the dates that we talked about, right, to make sure Christine has them, right? This was it was May, correct?
Again, my calendar's not open. I have to find it.
Right, okay. So what I have is what we discussed. The actual volunteer day is May 9th. Is that correct according to Christine?
Checking.
From 10 until 1, right? And then you guys were going to organize, and I don't know if you've done it yet.
I'm only just
sort of-
opening my calendar here, so I don't know what we're
Well, I
looking
mean,
for.
it's not like you can get there at the moment, but you were going to do
I have an open action item to let everybody know what the date is for our pre work day planning and walkthrough session.
okay. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, so that's not yet booked, right? So
That's right. Well, we
Dean
have a
is going to.
date for it,
We
but I
agreed
have
to a
not sent
date,
out
yeah.
something on it.
Yeah.
Do you want to look at that together now? Would that help,
Well,
Dean?
we agreed to a date. I just can't remember what it is. And I'm literally
Yeah.
just opening my calendar trying to find things here. So
Let me see if I can find those notes.
yeah, here I've got
Um,
something on my calendar for Saturday, April 4th from 10 to 1
Perfect.
for Dave,
Yes, the
Steve,
prep.
me, and Alan to
Okay.
do prep for that woodland management.
Okay, yes, and I have that in mind. So guys, is that still good for you? In which case your action item got completed, Dean.
Thanks, folks.
It's good for me, yeah.
It's good
Yeah.
for me. So
Okay,
That's
so
April
the whole
4th, right? Yeah, okay.
and this was proposed by me, and the purpose was for us to be able to walk through some of these tasks that we're going to be asking volunteers to do that we actually
Correct.
don't have a lot of experience with ourselves, just to fill everybody in quickly, such as girdling the trees using various manual means. And so we were going to go scope out the areas where we were proposing to work and look at what methods we were going to use and then try them out and think about them with an eye to how we do that with a bunch of volunteers who have more or less experience. What are the safety considerations? What tools are needed? Who's going to supervise what where? So it's kind of like rather than figuring this all out with a bunch of people standing around on the day, we're actually going to have it all kind of knocked out ahead of time.
Okay.
Right,
That
and
will be
also to look at how to select trees we might want to do this to based on the criteria in the woodland management plan.
right. Okay. So you guys are cool with that? Okay. All right. Now I've got that. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that was okay. So based on that, woodland.
I can
Okay.
even send that out as a Google invitation because I just discovered I had it on my calendar already. So I can just invite you all, and that'll be our informal way of tracking that.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Good. Good, guys. Move on.
Yes.
Okay.
Good.
So next we have well, for climate change. I mentioned in the discussion document that the grasslands and wetlands will turn up at number 8 in the discussion document under the volunteer project, basically the WPI. Okay, when we get to that. As for I mean, all the no electricity in the barn or the farmhouse, all of that, wading through lots of snow, not happening. This since we had lots of lovely snow, the best in years, right? So, Dave, have you seen people snowshoeing? I've seen people snowshoeing. Have you seen cross-country skiing at all up there?
I have not, but I've seen tracks in the snow when I walk
Okay.
down the road. I actually haven't gotten out there to do any snowshoeing myself other than in my yard, but I think I'm getting enough confidence now that I could do it. So I
Yeah,
probably be
no.
getting out there myself.
Don't,
So
don't risk your ribs for the sake of trying out your snowshoeing.
no. I mean, I've not gone down to the big field, so I don't know if anyone's had
I
fun
don't.
down there.
I have not.
So,
You know what? I think I did see some tracks looking out my backyard. I think I did see some tracks coming up from down below.
okay.
So
Yeah,
I think somebody has been down there, yeah.
yeah. Okay, and I saw tracks too going across to Clamshell Pond as well. There's people somehow going there, and then goodness knows what they're doing when they get into the
Yep.
roots. But
And I also
but
see
yeah,
tracks going up kind of across not across from me, but across from Dennis's shop, the trail that goes up
yeah.
across from the mechanic right now.
Okay.
Oh, the people have been coming up. For
Yeah, there
sure.
are people using it, and I also saw someone ice fishing the other day too. And I had the wrong camera lens, so I've got, I've got what I've got.
Yep.
But
Yeah, there's been a lot of activity with ice fishing. Not this week, but in prior weeks there was a lot of people
yeah,
up, which is
you did.
good.
Okay,
That's great.
Yeah.
that's good. Because it gets tricky now because now it's melted, it's above freezing in the middle of the day for a few hours, and then, anyway, but good, excellent. So we can actually say everyone's having a very jolly time up there in the snow. Okay, now moving along here. Okay, so no barn stuff, no farmhouse, no in the snow, recreation, all of that stuff. I did just want to confirm. Okay, well, it comes under the pollinator meadow. Electricity farmers. Okay, I did confirm that I had heard from the Clinton Cultural Council about the $700 grant award for Rob Gagier and promotion of same, and that was for the 22 August session, which, as we've said before, would start in the barn with a sort of presentation from Rob, which may need a generator. I don't know what months away from that, right? And then a site visit. Okay, so we did get.
We have a portable inverter generator if we need it.
Right. Okay, but we did get that confirmation of the money, which is great. I would like to ask you, are we planting more in the nursery garden this year? Is there anything
there's only a couple of things we're missing that we just can't find. There's the question whether the prairie willow we got late in the year actually makes it. It would be nice if it does, but we won't know until spring. That's one of the ones we desperately need because those willows are the first thing out in April. If we might want to look at, not in the garden itself, if we can't get it, we had a couple of other willows we planted there too. So we might want to think about if we can't get willows that are surviving there, to maybe get a pussy willow of some kind that we can plant near the garden down in that wetland, but that's for later in the year. The one other thing we're missing that's on our original plan, there is some kind of a raspberry. I can't remember what it's called. It's a particular kind of raspberry. I've been on the waiting list for that for 2 years now at Blue Stem Natives. And if we can't find that, we might want to come up with something else. Because again, that's something that fits a particular, I can't remember without looking at it, but a particular time in that annual cycle.
Okay.
I think it's in the spring when it's flowering. It's one of those. So wherever it fits in that time slot of the pollen and nectar, we can't seem to get that one. So is there something else we could substitute if we
Okay.
can't get that?
So Jim, how about we double check this and make a decision on this for the March meeting? Because if we're going to try for something else, we should order it.
Yeah, whatever that would be. What is it?
Yeah.
I'll have to look if there's something else that sort of fits that same role in
Okay.
the same calendar, same part of the
Yeah.
calendar, you know?
Well, the other thing about talking about this again in the spring is to see what did survive, not just the ones we just mentioned, but how good were the rest of them under, several feet of snow. We did pretty good for the first year, but it didn't snow that much. So,
Yeah,
but they're native plants, right? So they should
yeah, and
survive.
everything that survived last year should be pretty well established by this
Right,
year. So, I would hope.
right. Okay. And some of us are trying again the winter sow activity to see. Okay, so
Yeah.
all
We see
right.
what comes up we see what comes up in the spring. There is one or two extra plots that aren't planted with anything. We could look at putting something in, but I think first we need to see what survives, what survives the spring.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. For some reason, the one thing I would like us to check is the blueberries. I'm not sure. This is we replaced the blueberries, right? The bushes
Well,
down in the corner.
we had one high bush blueberry the first year that didn't survive the summer. We replaced it with three low bush blueberries that looked like they were doing okay the last time I saw them. I mean,
Okay.
they're down to end of season and the leaves are turning, brown, but they looked okay to me. But we'll see what happens in the spring.
Because sometimes we've put them in places without knowing that they weren't going to be happy there. And if we'd put them somewhere else, and that bottom end is really hard to judge because it suddenly gets dry down there,
Well, we'll just
right?
see what happens in the spring. I
Yeah.
mean, what can I,
Okay. All
and if
right.
they
So
are
let's,
if you go over by the power lines on the DCR property, they are all over the place there, and that's sort of high and rocky and grassy. I've seen them on top of Mount Monadnock. I, grew up with them across the street from where we lived in Wilmington. They seem to just sort of take off and live everywhere but
hmm,
we'll see how they do.
okay. So we'll keep checking it month by month once we can get near it, which we can't at the moment. Okay, smash it. Thank you. Um, okay, so invasive species. Well, I got contacted. This is sort of interesting, and I will follow up with her. You'll see in the discussion document, I mentioned that I was contacted by Beth Sudermayer. She referenced in her email to me, she was looking for a source of beetles with the possibility of releasing them in the Nashua River watershed area. Now, that was it was a general request sent in via info at Rauscher Farm. So I replied to her and sort of said, I didn't send her all of all that back research because she implied that she'd been engaged in beetles more than 10 years ago. So I simply, I said, would you like to Zoom and talk some more? And I haven't heard back, but I did give her the beetle vendors out in Bozeman, Montana. So as the only ones I know, because the other thing is, if they were thinking, she seems to be for a big organization, it seems to be a much bigger plan from what I gather, but she hasn't filled me in. If there was another if they were going to generate another source of beetles on this, on this here, Massachusetts, but I don't know. So I'm just giving you this was the inquiry. I replied to the inquiry. It was the only information that we have.
Well, and I'm not sure from what I read of that inquiry, if she was asking if we have beetles she could come and borrow or, harvest or whatever.
Right. She asked us if we purchased or reared.
Yeah.
And I replied, we purchased from the sole vendor. So who knows? Let's see. Maybe it might lead to something. I don't know. So I'll follow up because she's not replied to having a conversation. I'll follow up with her again before the next meeting. Okay?
Did she mention which part of the Nashua River watershed? I'm just curious.
No, she didn't.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll forward you her email in case you if you recognize any of it. So, But we do know it's all around us. So if there's more people suddenly saying, we have to do something, that's good. I mean, you walk down any of the surrounding wetlands and rivers and there it is,
Sure.
blooming away.
Who is she with, Gloria?
Well, it's not totally clear. That's the thing. She listed in what I said in the discussion document. On her email, she's an environmental planner with the Devons Enterprise Commission. But in the email, she also mentions another group, but it's not clear to me if she's part. So let me send you the email, see what you guys think. It's not clear quite who she's talking for.
It might be nice to have a fellow beetle buddy in our local
In our back
environmental
garden,
zone.
in our back garden, that would be fun, wouldn't it? Yeah. I like it. We could have beetle buddy parties. I'm beginning to get silly. It's okay. But yes.
Tweedle beetles, like the Dr. Seuss book, the Tweedle beetle battles.
Do you think this could be the great, tourist draw to visit Rauscher Farm? Who knows? Life takes strange paths sometimes, right? Okay. But yeah, I'll forward you the email. Well, I'll forward you the thread, like her to me and me to her. All right. And then see what you guys think. Okay. All right. So that was her. Okay. Oh. Now we get to the real fun part. Okay. Take a look at the discussion document about the all persons path to Clamshell Pond. And I did send you fairly recently. What's happened is Sean Kerrigan, who is a member of the select board, has been on the Conservation Commission for a good few months now. They were really short when they didn't have people. And, and then the agent they had left, and they've now got another part-time agent. This is an agent shared with Shrewsbury. Is it Shrewsbury? Can't remember. So, and Sean was very instrumental in having that happen for them, which is a really important part of being able to speed up the work of the Conservation Commission in terms of, people doing a notice of intent, for projects that they're working on, be they bigger construction projects, from corporations, or be they, just normal folks needing to get permission to do things on their property. So there is another agent in place. She's called Sierra Harris. And so Sean, meanwhile, because pretty much every month I report in about the path to Clamshell Pond, and he said he would get in touch with the town administrator. And that was around November, which he did. There was a delay in having a response from the town administrator, which came in a few weeks, matter of 10 days ago, whatever, or 2 weeks now. So I sent that to you. And then when I sent that to you, I also sent it to the Conservation Commission to say that we would have a discussion, and then I would report to them this upcoming February meeting of the Conservation Commission. There are a number of issues which I have spelled out in how to proceed at this point. During the last Conservation Commission meeting, when the town administrator's response had come in 5 minutes or so before the meeting was due to start, so no one there had time to read it, right? So, but that email talked about how all sorts of things, were necessary to do to get. So this process that when I submitted at the end of the NOI process with the Conservation Commission, I immediately sent over to the chair of the Permanent Building Committee in December of 2023, requesting how to get on the agenda. I will be detailing this in a document I'll prepare for the Conservation Commission, which I will obviously also share with you, and just a step-by-step things that happened, or rather didn't quite happen, because it was then I was repeatedly asking and things happened. So anyway, in the meantime, Sean Kerrigan was very specific in November saying everything must be done properly, right? And that was why he was contacting the town administrator. So it was interesting to see the town administrator's response as to what was proper. With all of that, what I am proposing for us is to not attempt to get to get a request for additional town funding, because we don't know how much, and there's this whole proper process that needs to be done in order to get that information. I am proposing that we recommend to the Conservation Commission that we hold this project request for additional funding for 1 year. So in other words, we don't try and cram it onto this year's warrant. And we give the project has time to do the whole thing. In other words, go back to the beginning of the process with the Permanent Building Committee, and then we would have more than 12 months to make sure that happened properly. We've waited a long time for this. I'm suggesting it doesn't hurt to wait and do it perfectly 1 more year. I've also noted in the discussion document there are other factors about putting requests for considerable funding onto the June the 1st, 2026 warrant for 2 reasons. The town is at the moment very strapped for money. The town departments, and I know this because of being a library trustee and having to look at all the library budgetary requests. So we the trustees / the library director, to go before the budget process, which will start any day now, being asked to present, lower funding than is ideal for what people need. So we already know that the town is watching all departments and asking them to not submit budgets for what they feel they truly need, but to take level service funding or even cuts. So we know how strapped the town is. So that's one factor. We also know that there's another big ticket item going to be on the June 1st, 2026 warrant. That will be the new library building project, which the cost of that and the amount of the grant award will not be known until hopefully sometime in March. But that will be a big ask, right? So if you look at the timing of all of this, what I am proposing that you consider that we wait a year.
Can I add too, we've also just had our property tax bills increased for the already planned middle school costs. And it's gone up quite a bit, which a lot of people are going to be sensitive to.
Mm-hmm. The actual cost of that, because I shared this information wearing my library trustee hat, I did talk to the assessor some weeks ago about, how did the current tax bill break down? And I think it's about $304 just for the middle school project. So you look at that. People are very, very sensitive at the moment to, what their taxes will be. So, and this is the first year that the middle school project, although it was passed, 18 months ago or more, it's only just now started to show up. So for all these reasons, I feel, in my humble opinion, it would be prudent for us to make sure that a certain process, which I had believed was happening as it should be happening, I don't think was, but that's past history now, but we start again. and we give ourselves time and we go for the June 2027 ask for this project. Your thoughts?
Based on the email that was sent around regarding that thread that went between Sean and Mike Ward about the process and the bids needed, that should be enough for us to put the brakes on this a little bit to make sure all the i's are dotted and the t's are crossed and we've done this properly, regardless of the other considerations that have been addressed. If we haven't done our due diligence up front now to be able to ask for those funds, I think we're putting ourselves in a corner and not being able to promote why this would be an asset to the town.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you need a
I
motion on this, Gloria?
I think I would like a motion. So just to go, I can take that to the Conservation Commission meeting in 2 weeks. Does everyone feel comfortable with this? I see nodding heads. Okay. Okay, so yes, so the motion really doesn't need to go into the details. It just needs to say that, additional funding for the All Persons Path to Clownshell Pond should be on the warrant of June 2027, right? Does that make it? I'm thinking we don't need to go into all the hyper. Yeah, are you comfortable with that? And if so, Dean, could you spell it out in beautiful language?
I propose that we postpone taking a proposed warrant article to the town meeting from this year to the next fiscal year.
Second.
I'm trying to make sure I get this written down.
Warrant article for the Path to Clamshell Pond project.
Yeah, well, postpone a warrant article for town meeting to the next fiscal year. Do we want to be more specific, to be voted on in June 2027?
Sure. Let's say to be voted on in June 2027. Or whenever the regularly scheduled town meeting to discuss warrant articles shall be held.
In the town, I'd say in the town meeting of 2027. How about that?
Sometimes towns have multiples, but that's probably good enough.
Yeah, sometimes they do, but I think we're wanting to give ourselves time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, this doesn't constrain us in any way.
Okay. So that was Dean, and the second was Dave. Okay. So, okay. Now, all those to vote? No further discussion? Nope. Okay. So all those in favor of that motion on a roll call?
Dean, aye.
Dave, aye.
Christine, aye.
Gloria, aye.
Alan, aye.
Jim, aye.
Okay. Thank you. Approved. Okay. Okay. So, all right. Okay. All right. Okay, we've got all persons. Okay, so the volunteer, citizen, all that sort of stuff. We've got the woodland stewardship one, which we just talked about, right? But coming in lately, like a couple of days ago, was a possible WPI project, which is in the discussion document. So David Spinagle, who is a professor at WPI, and remember, this whole program is called IQ
IQP,
No, IPQ.
IPQ, okay, whatever.
IPQ, I think. All right, and this is a project where anyone, this is for Alan, you may not have been around when this last one happened, I can't remember. But the WPI students have, before they graduate, have to do it's basically a community project. And they have to sign up to do it, and they have a faculty advisor, and it can be anything at all. Now, in order to get that, for the WPI students to sign up for something, there is a fair in May, a IPQ fair in March, sorry, when the host entity like us puts out the project and then see if any of the students are interested enough to sign up for it, right? If they do sign up for it, then the whole thing kicks off with sort of an initial meeting with me and any of you who want to come, where we explain what it is we want them to do. And then they do it, and it runs through, I think, may start earlier than August. I think we've had them start earlier in August of this year, and then has to be completed. They have to complete it in time for their graduation or year end of 2027. Okay, so that's the program, Alan. All right.
Yeah, I was here when the last
Oh, you were? Okay, sorry.
the Woodland, yeah.
Well, that one sort of imploded on itself. It wasn't their fault, but one of the team members they had basically. Anyway, we won't go into the details, but
I remember being at the tree survey where
Yeah.
we roped off an area of trees and identified them, yeah. The
Right,
student,
and we
yeah.
That was the last
and
one.
we
yeah.
were due for a report at the end of the entire process, but
Oh,
then
yeah.
it imploded. They internally imploded, and I just said, well, I left it because you couldn't really, it was distressing enough as it was for them. Okay. All right. Now it's hard to find projects that can have, sufficient benefit for us. So here's one I'm throwing out there because we could do with this information. So it's the large grassland area, right, which we know is transitioning, has transitioned. Some of it has transitioned around where the loose strife is. And it's potentially certain other areas will transition from, gosh, I can't say that fast, from grassland to wetland, right? But we're not quite sure where those areas will be. Now, Dave Cowell has said, well, if you look at this special map, you can sort of see the likely places because of, where things are. And we know already there's areas of runoff down through that field. Okay. So I'm wondering if we could set these inquiring minds to look at the grassland. We give them certain tools to start with and then see what they come up with. Can they draft out areas that are likely to transition sooner rather than later? And that would mean looking at, and it's not an absolutely scientific scope because we know, this is Jim's favorite part, we know about the beaver dam, right? At the back, just off.
Which is not on Rauscher Farm, but certainly
No.
affects, and they used to be like, paths and bike trails through there, and that whole area has got very wet, which also has contributed to that end of the field being sort of permanently wet. But again, I'm not sure how much of that is from the beavers and how much is, from whatever else is going on. Because when I look at it, not being an expert, it seems to me that beaver dam was holding water back from our field, not adding it in. But who knows what that does to
Yes, right.
diverting water around the dam rather than through it or whatever. I'm not a hydrologist or whatever.
That might be quite interesting for them because we would have to, I would suggest, find out the landowners who are around that area and then have them ask permission to go onto that property and to look for certain things. In other words, there'll
One of
be
those
some.
areas, one of those areas was posted, it was a couple of years ago, last time I was in there, by a local landowner who had signs up saying no trespassing or whatever, but I think he was more concerned with people going in and actually actively doing things as opposed to walking through, but would have to
So
check.
yeah, so they would need to look at an assessor's map, find out who it was, and then make a request. I mean, this is all learn. This is all education, right? For them,
I have
right,
a
and for us.
question.
Yes, Dean.
So this sounds really interesting and cool and really up our alley, more so than say the tunnel drone study, which some of us remember.
But we
Um,
do.
and that was pretty interesting as well. But my question is, it seems like there's a lot of expertise that's going to be needed here. You're going to need somebody who is a wetland biology expert who's going to be able to identify the plans and help guide the design of the research for this. And it seems like the kind of project where they will kind of have to have a BYO wetland biologist, and so I'm wondering, do they have that person on their team, or are they expecting that we will be providing the expertise, which I'm not seeing at this table? I mean, we all there's a lot of knowledge at this table,
Right.
but I don't think any of us consider ourselves wetland biologists. And so I'm just wondering where that expertise will come from, because they're gonna need it from the get-go, like the very design of this project, how they're going to lay it out and stake it and count plants and all of that jazz that goes on with these studies. And I don't know how to do that.
I would suggest is you have made an excellent point. No, it's not us, but I do believe we have to point them in the direction of people who can help. So I would suggest that part of us saying we like this project, we'd like to propose it to the WPI, right? That I take this on our recommendation tonight to the Conservation Commission to, to David Cowell, who is himself
That's what I was afraid of. I'm afraid of tapping Dave for one more thing that's
well,
not
I think
intrinsic to Rauscher Farms' immediate needs. And then I'll
I
just say that I'm not the person who would
yeah.
be asking him, but I wonder, that's where I thought this was going. So I just want to raise it.
Well, my experience, and I can't speak for him, so he has the opportunity to say no. Is he was very keen about the WPI projects. I mean, so I would suggest that this is what we would like to propose as a project, but it's contingent on finding a wetlands biologist, right? Who they can, and the question is, Dave, would you be prepared to take it on, or would we need to help them find someone else?
Is it
Because
possible
me
that there's,
personally,
is it
I don't
possible
know.
that there's, is it possible that some level of expertise within WPI or someplace
Yeah.
too?
Correct. But I think first of all, let's also, when I talk to Dave Spinagle, but I would say that we take this in 10 days, 2 weeks, whatever, to the Conservation Commission and say, we really like this project. Dave Cowell started it, right, in the loosestrife area and has identified that area as having transitioned. We want to try and get more information out of this grassland area. And we're proposing that we offer this as a project to the WPI team for their March fair to see if there is any takers. Your thoughts on that as this first strategy?
I like the idea of having somebody at WPI in the faculty who has skin in the game. And if this is something Dave would enjoy, that'd be terrific.
Okay. But I would suspect that we can draw on WPI like you suggest too. That they can find someone to, I mean, I can talk to David Spinagle and say, and look on, you look on the WPI faculty thing. And, so let's look at it from both sides, right? We
I
can't have
think it
too
would
many
also
wetlands.
be helpful to know, and obviously there's not even a study design at this point, but it would be helpful to know as soon as we could know what level of engagement this team here, all of us, who do the boots on the ground, what level of engagement we'll need to have in what roles, obviously. That would be
Yes,
helpful.
and honestly, right now, the thing that makes sense putting some energy in is simply to draw up some sort of project description. Because if no one bites on it in March, there's nothing to prepare for, right? If there's not sufficient interest from a student group, then I would caution us not to suddenly try and work all of this out between now and March when we don't even know if there will be the interest. If we, as you say, follow up on some of these expert things, or tell David Spinagle, we can still post a project. I don't know when this March fair is. It tends to be, I think, more like the middle of March, but I don't know. I can get that from David. So are we interested in pursuing this is my question.
Yes.
Yes, from Christine, yes. So everybody else, what you think?
Yeah, I'll give it a yes, given the fuzzy unknown of, what it actually is. Yeah.
It usually is unknown at this stage
Yeah,
for
right.
us. Dave?
Yeah, same.
Yeah, okay.
I'm
Alan?
a yes, I'm a yes.
Yeah. Dean, are you a...
I'm a yes.
Okay, so in other words, we're going to explore it to the next step, right? Which means I will find the date of this fair, okay? Because I'll have to fish out materials about what's Rauscher Palm, and then, so I'll let you know as soon as I know from David what's the date of the fair. I will take what we just discussed onto the Conservation Commission about wetland biologist, and also I will also mention that at this stage to David Spinagle. All right? Is that does that meet your pleasure? Okay. All right. I will now give my personal vote because I feel it's really important to get some sort of education programs on Rauscher Farm, and we have tried with our local school system that has, not worked yet. And here we have an education benefit of Rauscher Farm that even if it doesn't specifically benefit us, is what part of Rauscher Farm's educative purpose to inform, teach and delight, as Horace said in 42 BC, just in case you were wondering.
Remember that.
What? Horace.
I'm not that old. I don't remember that, but I was.
Horus, you mean like the
Horus.
Egyptian god?
Oh no,
Horus,
that's Horace. No, this is
in Greek.
actual Horace. No, this is actually one of those, teachers. So we're talking about Western civilization here.
I see.
Okay.
Just a brief aside, there was a whole thing on a whole course on literary criticism, textbook written by a professor at Harvard. I did the course at UMass Boston using his textbook, and then Gloria later on signed up for his course, and the textbook was no longer in print. And she was hunting all over for it, and I said, "Oh, I have it. I got a copy right on my shelf." So who knew? But there you go.
Christine, do you want to
Oh
tell us
yes,
about
yes,
this?
yes. Oh, I spelt it wrong. It's IQP. Thank you, Christy. I'm getting chat here. Correction. I'm getting corrected. It's IQP. It's investigative query of something or other. I didn't really. Okay. Oh, yes. Oh, and Christine has also in the chat group, I will read it to you. This is highly informative. Okay, so maybe, okay, FY, okay. There may be an alternative avenue through Worcester State University for RF wetland study. So, path to professional certification. Okay, while Worcester State University does not offer a specific wetland science degree, the environmental science program provides the foundational course and field experience required to meet educational requirements for professional wetland scientist, PWS, or wetland professional in training, PWPIT certification from the Society of Wetland Scientists. Thank you, Christine.
Interesting.
Right
So
on.
now, how can I actually somehow send this to it? I don't know how to copy a chat thing and send it to you. You can see it, right? Yeah, you guys,
I can see it. Yeah.
if
I
you all
mean,
click on chat,
If you
right?
click on the three dots in the upper right-hand corner of chat, at least that's how it looks on my screen, well, you get a pop-up that says Save Chat.
Oh, okay. Wait a minute. Three dot.
Don't ask me where it saves it,
Oh
Oh,
no,
but
I've
it saves
lost
it
it.
somewhere.
there's also
Oh,
a way to copy it, the three dots below what Christine wrote in the chat.
Oh, copy. Great.
Yeah, and on my
well,
Mac, when I right click, I can copy the whole thing.
Yeah, I see that.
well,
Okay.
you know what, Dave? You copy the whole thing and you
Yeah,
send us an email,
okay.
right?
So Christine, were you thinking maybe we should be talking to WPI, I mean, to Worcester State about this program rather than WPI about IQP?
I did a preliminary Google on Worcester WPI to see, and they have environmental programs. Some of them are more bioecology, so there's specific studies on crayfish and that sort of thing. They're very, very specific in what they're researching. I don't think there's any harm in writing up a proposal and going to this fair to see if there's any nibbles. And then if that turns into a dead end, then maybe we reach out to Worcester State University that
Yeah.
does have these certification courses as part of their curriculum. And perhaps there's an opportunity for a crossover collaboration. We don't know unless we ask.
This is fun.
Is it possible that the schools in Worcester have some kind of a cross campus agreement like they do out in Amherst for the various colleges, you know?
A very preliminary look while we've been in this meeting does not bring up anything specifically.
Okay.
Doesn't mean that it doesn't exist and it's just not on their websites.
Okay.
Okay. So to wrap all of this up, gang, right? We'll still go as if I'll do what I said with David Spinagle, right? Say this is the type, this is the project, right? When is the fair? Because we have to write something up and then see what happens. And if there's no, as Christine said, no nibbles, I love the project. Let's go somewhere else with it.
And we've had experience before where David Spinagle has looked at this and goes, "Oh, I know exactly who this should be the faculty advisor on this." And we don't know what the network is amongst the faculty advisors, where the crossovers lie with their
Right,
colleagues and what university. So until we put it
right,
out there, we just don't know where it's going to
right.
land.
So, good point. And as I understand that David Spinagle's role as a faculty, he's basically got to make sure they stick by the rules of the program, the IQP, right? And make sure they hit those specific deadlines in time and deliver their deliverables. Otherwise, they don't get graded. Otherwise, they don't get passed for their involvement in the program. And theoretically, they don't get to graduate. They'll have to find another one. Okay. So, okay, fun, everybody. Shall we move on with that? Okay. Um, so okay, doing communication is fairly busy at the moment, right? There was a January newsletter about the winter sow. There was a February to enjoy the winter snow activities. The item did run a picture of the winter sow presenters in the item last Friday, with a little bit of information, whatever. That's again with the item, you write up your own thing and then beg some space in the item, right? Which is how that works. So, okay. And then right now, which I do want to touch on this, I'm reaching out to the community, and I've had some good things coming back for a rehab. Now, this is to go in partnership with, here's what we see on Rauscher Farm, here's about wildlife rehab, etc., etc. Now, what I did was I I obviously went first to Newhouse, which is, the big one that has Nibby, that got a special state dispensation to not be sent back to the wildlife, but to become an educational tool. So I did reach out initially to Newhouse, and then I did hear back fairly promptly. They're very good about that. They are a very organized, the fact that they could, get Healy involved to save Nibby, they're pretty super in that regard. So anyway, they do not do any educational projects between March and July because they're taking care of babies in need, right? Wildlife. But I did find the Massachusetts site that shows all the licensed wildlife rehabbers. And I created a pretty big list, like 12 people. I think some pages, major pages. Then I posted on Facebook to see if any people had personal experience, because this is just when you go on the list, it just says, wildlife, and it tells you the type of animals they do, and if they only do they take things in? Some people only don't take, and there's a whole, different things that people do. Now, then I'm going back now through the process of going through the Facebook suggestions and then running any suggestion against the list that I got, this big long list, right? Now, one of the people that came up from, and this is from Cindy Bear, who's a friend and has volunteered on Rauscher Farm and is very much engaged in the Tottenham Sanctuary Farm. So what she gave me the name from one of these. And what was interesting was in one of Cindy's messages to me, she mentioned that this particular Alyssa Gianquinto of the Gianquinto Wildlife Rehabilitation Center based in Marlborough, that this team had worked to get the town of Marlborough to ban using rodenticides on town property. So that tweaked my curiosity, right? So I have now, and we know what the disastrous, food chain effect of poisoning rats, right? We're aware of this. Because it just goes not just through the wildlife, but it goes through the domestic animals and everything. And whatever our personal opinions are, and we had to deal with whole rats in our house after the house next door finally was bought and all redone. And obviously the rats had been there for years, and so they just moved to our house. And Jim had the, unfortunate task of, traps, but it was instantaneous. But we did see.
And crawling into very, very tiny little spaces to find where the holes are.
Right.
Whatever.
But we did see in that whole process, when they were redoing this building next to us, multifamily, we did see obviously very, very ill rodents staggering around our garden. Okay.
I mean, somewhere
So,
in the neighborhood, there's people putting out poison, either there or other people in the neighborhood who've
right.
also been visited by those, animals.
Anyway, what I'm asking us, and I don't know if there is on town property, now we're talking about Rauscher Farm, if there is a ban on using rodents. We know we can't use chemicals, but is there a ban on using rat poison? Okay. So I have now I called the DPW and I spoke to someone there who didn't know the answer. So it wasn't Lisa. So I have today sent an email to Kevin Bartlett at the DPW and to Brian Farragher of the Facilities Department and just asked the question, does the town have a ban on rodenticides on town-owned property? Just simple question. I've never heard of one, but that doesn't mean to say one doesn't exist. Maybe you guys have. If there isn't one, I was wondering that and this is a big thing for the rehabbers I'm seeing, whoever comes and joins the April the 25th presentation might just simply address the issue of, rat poisoning and wildlife, and without going into any of that. And then subsequent to that, would we be interested in pursuing it as a second part? Not to promote it on the 20th. Would we be interested as conservationists and managing, town-owned wildlife? Would we be interested in addressing the issue on a town level and asking the town to ban rat poison on town-owned property? But that's almost a whole other discussion for all of us, and we may have different opinions on that. But what
I
I'm
think it is. I think it is not because I think it's a good idea. I do. But on the other hand, are we conflating Rauscher Farm with something that's a different issue that then basically is going to bring down fire on us?
right, but I
I don't
don't
know that it
think
would bring down fire on us, but I don't know that that's our role with with the management of Rauscher Farm. To Jim's
Mm.
point, I don't think there's harm in educating the public, saying, okay, these are our wildlife rehabilitators. We're having a program on what wildlife exists on Rauscher Farm based on the trail cams, etc., and bringing up the topic and showing the consequences and what these rehabbers have to deal with, and letting people make their own educated decisions. Beyond that, I think it becomes a citizens issue to see
okay,
if it gets spearheaded that way, but not as a voice of the Rauscher Farm Management Subcommittee, because again, that would need to go to the Conservation Commission to get their permission. Because
actually, it wouldn't be
we're a
us.
subset, right?
Yeah,
It would
yeah,
have to
it would
go
be
up.
them. Right, it will go
Exactly.
up the chain. Right. No,
But there's nothing wrong with offering education of how the network of wildlife and nature is intertwined, and how what the effects are of these products. I don't think
right.
that's outside the purview of an educational
Okay.
program about
All
Rauscher
right.
Farm.
Okay.
Can I say,
Yeah.
if we do have a rehabber as part of this presentation, I mean, my thought was going to be showing photos and videos of what's up there, but they should also be discussing what is an animal that needs rehab as opposed to what is one that just needs to be left alone.
That is the main point. I think I agree. That is the main point. Because if, when any of us read this, we can we can find a baby X, and rush to scoop it up when actually it's been left there by the parent to go in search of food. So, and rather than just handing out literature, which you can find online about that, I'm hoping that we can have a real person standing up, because that's, I think, a lot of what they deal with is dealing with the, you know, they're dealing with trying to get little creatures back on their feet to be then sent back to their real home.
So the rodenticide would be a subset of that conversation in helping identify what animals need to be scooped up
Yeah,
in that net to be
yeah.
taken care of, versus having it be a standalone topic in
Okay,
that
right.
conversation.
So you're all comfortable with that approach, are you? Yeah?
Yeah.
Because the things that I see is what Christians, you do see a lot of them, especially, coyotes and foxes, where they're trying to treat them because they've ate something,
And also, you just brought it up, coyotes. We have over the years on our wildlife cameras, we've had at least a couple of coyotes up there that with injured legs, three-legged coyotes that actually seem to do fairly well. And only recently I read something saying coyotes will often pretend to have an injured leg so they can get closer to, animals that otherwise might be running away.
Jim, I
Well,
think
they-
you're referring to who we've named him Chester. He's been
Okay.
seen on many cams, 2 or 3 different cams in the neighborhood. Excuse me, the neighborhood, and he's been around for at least 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, and if it's the same one, I can't remember. There was another one had a different leg, which I know there's at least 2 of them, or one of them faking. But I
Yeah.
think Chester is probably the one that I saw the most.
Yeah.
And there was a point, I wasn't sure if it was a he or a she, but at one point, that coyote and another were crossing a log where I have that regular camera of the logs going over the screen, which seemed to be quite chummy with another coyote crossing that log. So I think he or she, was basically doing well in the romance department too. So.
Wait, another study topic.
There you go, right?
Right. So
You
now
get the sympathy vote.
okay,
There
but
must
now
be a
we have
college student out
names.
there interested in that.
Oh, it's not too funny. It's too funny. So I really, again, thank you for the input, right? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to move on quickly, about reaching out. Okay, I did just 2 days ago heard back finally from Cheryl Hughes, which I had been trying to get her interest and availability to do the famous box on the corner of Brook and Main Street. But she said, no, she can't do that. She's too busy. She's in Florida, but when she comes back, she's going to spend more time at an art gallery in Maine, so she can't commit to it, which means I will go back to Lee Abdullah, and see if she has any thoughts about artists. Okay. She may not, in which case, we start shaking the trees for, again, we're not under a time constraint here. And I just want to make sure we don't reinvent the wheel. So I'll go back to Lee and ask, right? Because she was the overall project manager for all the other ones that popped up in town. And see if she has any thoughts. And then we just move on, right? Okay. All right. So where am I almost through everything here? Okay.
Website you had on the
What?
website you had in your,
Oh, yes. Oh, Jim's moment of glory here when I leave town. Okay.
when you leave
'Cause-
town? Oh, yes, right.
yeah, when you start doing this and I sort of hear all the goddams coming from the next room, I'm
Right.
leaving town.
My entire US Navy vocabulary, yes.
Yes,
It's
okay. So yeah, just to make sure. So this is all about, yeah. Okay. So this is about, right. About the winter so jam-packed house, blah blah blah. Okay. So I've talked about the wildlife. Da da da. So there. All right. Yeah. Okay. Where's Jim? Where's Jim on that? Where are you? You're on the
right
end
on the
of.
bottom
Oh
of the
yes,
page.
you're on the end of communication and outreach. Christine
Yeah.
and I are puddling along with flyers. Jim, the discussion document says Jim is about to take the new website live. He'll explain what's involved. Go, Jim.
Okay, so bottom line is the new website. I built the whole new website in WordPress. The old website, as we all know, is, basically been lots and lots of stuff needed to be done on it. And I built that on very ancient software you can't even install on a new machine anymore. And what it's on right now is basically dumb software. Each page is a standalone page. If you want to edit one thing, you have to build an entire new page. The new site I built in WordPress, and WordPress is a database driven kind of a program. So it's like if you want to use the same picture in two places, you don't have to upload it in two places, you just reference it, etc. And which means it's faster loading, more flexible, and whole lots of fancier stuff you can do with it. So I spent months and months building this and also learning how to not just work WordPress in general, but also what do they call them? Like add-in templates, whatever they call them, looking at various ones until I finally found one that I like because that affects how the menu structure works and all kinds of other hoorah that nobody needs to know the pain of, and digging down and trying something and then say, wait a minute, I got to throw that out and try something else because it doesn't do this. That being said, I've built an entire new website, laid out very differently from the other one. I'm not including some things that are not in the other one, eliminating some things that are there, etc. Also links to our two Flickr sites, the Flickr site where we have all of our wildlife cameras, and also David Ammerman's Flickr site where he's got all of his wildlife and bird pictures. There's a link to that, on there. Long story short, it's all built right now. It is living on my own computer on a local server, a WordPress local server that I've installed on my computer. What I'm going to do is upload it. I was going to do it today, but then I ended up drilling down, looking at videos, how to do things and whatever, and sort of afraid to pull the trigger, until I'm pretty sure I know what to expect. So what I'm going to do probably on Friday is I'm actually going to buy a new place to put it. Right now, rauscherfarm.org is its own domain name, which it will always be, but the site itself actually exists it's under parkinsongroup.com space that we own. And I have it down on parkinsongroup.com space, but the outside world doesn't know that. That's where they get pointed to a subsection of that space. I'm gonna get a brand new site that will be just for the Rauscher Farm site. It will be installed with the WordPress tools installed on that site, so everything will work. And I'll probably do that on Friday. And then I've decided where I'm going to put it. I've been looking at different prices and different packages, yada, yada, yada. But it will end up going to, just without going into too much detail. I think it's fine. Yeah. So it's going to go on to Bluehost, which seems to be like a place that hosts lots and lots of WordPress sites. And I will buy a package that will have way more space than we need for it, even though it's the cheapest package. The entire site right now is less than a gigabyte. It's about 700 megs, including all the pictures and everything else. So what I'll do is I will sign up and pay for a new hosting site that will be named rauscherfarm.org. Although we could, if we wanted to put subsites under that, we can. And then once that site is there, which should be on Friday, I will then upload the entire site that lives on my computer to that site. Yeah, and I wasn't sure how to do all of that. I didn't have to FTP the whole thing, blah, blah, blah. But looking at it, they actually do have their own tools that will let me do that, which makes it much easier, assuming they work. So assuming everything works as they claim it works, uploading the entire site from my computer to them should go fairly smoothly, but how many times have we seen things crash and burn? So let's not get our hopes up. But in the meantime, once that's done, I will still have the site on my own computer so I can fix things, compare and look at things there before I upload them. So in the future, if I want to build a new page or add some new images, they'll go on my local host site first, and then I'll transfer just those sections to the live site. So I'll still have a place where I can work, and where I can break things offline before they're broken online, right? And part of the goal here is because it will all be in its own space down the road, on the off chance that I don't live forever, the site could be passed on to somebody else fairly easily just by changing the login user ID and somebody else's credit card or whatever. So this is going to be it won't be buried under the Parkinson group and be easier to get to without having to drill down through several levels of mysterious menus to find where it actually lives. Once that site is up, initially I will be the only one who can see it. So once it's up, and hopefully the old site will still be working. I'm not sure if it goes dark, we'll just live with a dark site for a few days. But once that site is up, hopefully Friday afternoon sometime, I should be able to see it, look at it, see if everything is working. And when that does, I have to go back to where our domain name lives, which is on GoDaddy, which was purchased many years ago by somebody else before I became involved. So the actual rauscherfarm.org site is registered through GoDaddy. I need to go there and point the domain name to its new place. So when anybody goes to rauscherfarm.org, it will get repointed through the domain name servers that live throughout the entire internet, blah, 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 which could take a few days for all that stuff to update itself, across the planet and the universe, whatever goes on there. So hopefully once I repoint the domain within a couple of days, maybe shorter, anybody who says rauscherfarm.org should go to the new site. I will then torpedo the old site, which nobody should be able to see anymore anyhow. And that should be that going forward. The email thing, like the info@rauscherfarm.org, I don't think that has to move, but I will find out through trial and error. If it does, I'll find a way to move it. But so that's where we stand. So right now, Friday, I will actually talk to somebody at that site. I will purchase the site that I want after they give me a sales pitch trying to upgrade to more stuff than we really need. And then if all goes as planned, I will follow the various friendly people online in various languages who tell you how to do this, follow their directions, and pack up the site on my computer, upload it all to the new space, and hopefully within a couple of hours, I can poke buttons and everything will work. And if it seems to be working, I will probably wait a day before I go to repoint the domain server and then cross my fingers for another unknown period of time. So once it seems to be worked, so everybody else can get to it just by going to rauscherfarm.org, I will send out an email to all of us so you can all look at it and see if you can figure out what's broken or what you think I did wrong. So
And just wondering, if this is all going to happen, you think it's going to happen Friday?
Friday, I'm going to purchase the site,
Okay,
right?
okay, what I'm wondering is, should we on the current homepage say, we are about to switch, blah, blah, blah. We may go dark, don't panic, we're
Idea,
coming back.
yeah. So I'll do
What?
that. I'll do that before I do anything else.
Right, because otherwise I could end up being inundated on Facebook
Right.
by saying, why
But
didn't this work?
probably, and it could be the very same day, probably the next day, once I go to GoDaddy, where the domain name is hosted, and I repoint that domain name to a different server, that existing site should go dark on its own because it's all going to be pointed to the new place. So
Okay,
I have no idea. There may be a point where there is no site in either place. I just don't know what happens at that point, you know.
okay,
But
okay,
I'll
but
put
Yeah,
up a
that's,
message.
but,
I'll put up a message anyway.
okay. So
There's an
sorry, Christine?
there's an opportunity once the new site is up
Mhm.
to post that to the social media pages to say, check out our new website, etc., and use
Right.
it as a promotional
Yeah.
item on the social media pages. And
Yeah.
also to Jim, not to add to your to-do list, is it in the to-do list to submit the new site address to the web crawl for Google so they find it more quickly?
Yeah, I can do all of that. I'm not sure. I can find out if the new I get so many different overlapping Bluehost does that automatically or not, but I'll find out when I talk to them. The other thing is because there's all the other browsers too that people use, although we know Google is like, you know, the big one. But sooner or later, all of the spiders will find it all. But yes, it'd be nice to point them. And the other thing I have done is all of the images on there, every picture and map does have explanatory text for blind readers and whatever, somebody who can't see should get a description of pictures read to them along with the text. At least as I set it up, that's what it says it will do. I haven't tested that. I'll probably have to download some software myself to see what it sounds like to somebody who can't see, but I don't know how to do that. It's another thing to do. But
It's a huge task, but the AI generated alt text, I've been experimenting with it myself too. You get some redundancy if the subject matter of the images is similar. So it's a question of how deeply you want to go in and tweak the alt text on all of the images. So if you've got a picture of a frog in a pond, that they don't all say picture of frog in a pond if you want to put more descriptors to be specific to the particular frog.
I don't know what at what level there's any AI generated for images. You're talking about something I don't even know about, but I
This
will
is the
tell you,
same. The alt text that gets read for someone who's
okay,
visually impaired, the
Alt
alt
text,
text
right.
is the what gets read to them.
okay.
And a lot of the software programs, even the Adobe Suite, is starting to add alt text automatically, AI generated to what it sees in the photos.
Okay.
And
Okay,
it's
Huh.
because what
fairly
because
accurate, but when you have subject matter that is, you've got a lot, all of the Rauscher farm, you've got trees and grass and etc. So you might get very similar alt text automatically generated across all of those pictures.
okay, all I can say right now within WordPress, every image I have actually written alt text that is supposed to be what gets used. If you end up with double alt text because they also generate some above and beyond what I put there, I think that's a really bad idea, but maybe that
I,
happens. I don't know.
I didn't realize you were doing them all manually. Kudos to
Yeah,
you. That's a huge task.
yeah,
What I was referring to is sometimes people don't put any in at all,
I
and
see.
the
Okay,
AI will
yeah,
automatically generate it. So we would get redundancy because the AI isn't as detail oriented as Jim
I
Webster.
see. Okay. So the AI technically would generate it, but put it in the same field in which the text I manually wrote would live. Is that the idea? I guess.
Your alt text will trump a blank field, but the
Okay,
blank
got it.
field might be
Okay,
generated by
Okay.
AI and not be as
okay.
specific
All
as we'd
right.
like.
Yeah.
So can I ask a really basic question? So do you hear this? Once you load the website, can you actually hear, can you hear it?
If you have that tool turned on, it will read it to you. There, if you can have your
Yeah,
settings.
okay.
Conversely, if you don't, oftentimes you can right click on an image and that text will appear.
I'm just
I,
wondering to make sure that for people whose vision is not good, that we somehow can proof what they're hearing.
well, which I said earlier, but maybe Christine already knows the answer. I said once this site is up, I was going to have to look into how I get whatever you need to do to listen to the site as if it were somebody who couldn't see. But is
Yeah.
that actually already built into browsers, or is that an app I have to download, or
It depends.
I
You
just
just want
lost
to.
you?
It depends on the browser, but
Okay,
it also can be part of the settings. I know Safari has it. I know
okay.
Chrome has it. So particular users who need particular features will usually have those set up.
Yeah.
Well,
But
I'll
right
look once it's
now,
up there.
if you were to just go to a site and not have those tools turned on, oftentimes you get the alt text by right clicking and it will show you what the description is. So you don't necessarily have the audio on, but the visual description shows up in text.
Well, once it's up, I'll look at it in several browsers and see what happens and see what I have to do to turn on, if there's a feature I can turn on, I guess.
Okay.
Will the new site have a donation capability?
Not not bu- not built in, but it does have the link to the CGCT site with instructions to make donations to CGCT in the name of Rauscher Farm, et cetera.
Okay.
That's a huge lift, everything you've done, Jim. So thank
Yeah.
you. That's an enormous task.
Well, we haven't yet see if it crashes and burns, but I'm pretty
Yes.
confident it's going to work. There may be a few days of banging my head against the desk or something.
Hmm. And meanwhile, everyone, where can I stay over the weekend?
Yeah,
The farmhouse is open.
that's true. Yes.
We're making it into an Airbnb.
Yeah, I had one each. I'm wondering, this is again, Christine, this is a question about you, Christine. Tiny URLs, right? Rauscher Farm has a tiny URL. Does that need to change when all of this is switched over in any way?
Tiny. What do you mean by tiny URL? I don't understand the question.
Well, and I still haven't mastered this very well. When you write a whole URL on like Facebook, like Bitly and things like this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You get the tiny URL. But
Oh,
what
well,
I was,
Presumably the address of what you would making into a tiny URL would be different because the web page subpages listing would be different.
so I
So
would start again. I
yeah.
would start,
I
yeah.
can tell you, I can tell you within the website or any website, I can attach a URL to anything I want to attach it to. It doesn't have to show the entire URL. I can just say Gloria's new hat or something, and I can link it to the place where you're wearing your new
Well,
hat.
I'll tell you where I found it doesn't work. It's okay. I can put, Rauscher Farm website, www. on mine, you know, but once I post onto these other Facebook pages, I'll get soup.
I'm talking about specifically what I have built into the web page,
Okay.
the,
Well,
the
we can
actual
talk about this
architecture of the web
offline.
page.
But
Yes.
Christine's made the point that once all of this gets sorted out, what I have as a tiny URL I'll need to bag that and come up with another based on all the new information. Right. Christine's nodding her
I
head.
still don't understand the issue. I mean, if you want to post, you're talking about to send people to rauscherfarm.org or to a particular page in Rauscher. What is the,
Sometimes to a particular page, sometimes to
yeah,
just Rauscher Farm, even just to rauscherfarm.org. When I've
all right.
used the tiny URL, because I'm trying to
That
learn
is
this
a, that
myself.
is actually that is actually completely aside from the website itself. That's you trying to post something elsewhere about how to get to a place in the website. It doesn't
Okay, so that's
it
what I'm
doesn't affect
doing.
what's
It's
built
on
into the
Facebook.
website, right?
It's on Facebook. Right.
Yeah.
And then suddenly I go to, it appears off and you're from Clinton F. And
Yeah, but
suddenly there's
that's
a
but
whole
that's
alphabet,
but
wanting to
that's
put rauscherfarm.org and there's a
but
whole
that's
soup.
that's all Facebook magic that has nothing to do with what's actually built into rauscherfarm.org.
Okay, all right. Well, but Christine's answered my question that the current tiny URL will be redundant once this all gets shifted over. I need to start again.
I don't understand whatever.
Well,
Whatever says RauscherFarm.org will still go to RauscherFarm.org. It'll just go to
no,
a
it's
different
not.
place,
It's when I have a longer
Yeah,
piece of
again, we're
information.
talking across purposes.
Yeah.
Whatever the actual place is that you want to go to on Rauscher Farm will always be what it always is. If you want to post a link to that elsewhere, whatever you're allowed, whatever, it's like when you upload a photo to Facebook, who knows what happens to that photo once you upload it because they turn it into something else anyway. It's like, it's out of our hands at that point,
Okay. You know what? We can continue
It'll,
this
it'll be a matter
wonderful.
of testing. It'll be a matter of testing,
Right.
but because the architecture of the new site is going to be different from the old site, new tiny URLs will probably be the safest bet.
That's all I need to
Well,
know.
you can't use anything that you've used before that points to a particular page because those pages won't be there anymore.
That's what Christine's saying.
Yeah,
Okay, which would include the homepage.
right.
Right,
Well,
which is
yes and no. Yes and no. RauscherFarm.org will take you to the homepage of the new site because that's where it's
I'm
going to
not
point
talking
to.
about RauscherFarm.org. I'm
Right.
talking about never mind, love. Don't worry about it. We have enough goddamn days to get through to get this whole thing up starting on Friday. So you know, I'm not kidding here. I hear the language coming during the last year or so, putting this all together. I will suddenly hear this language coming from Jim's computer. Okay, so we don't need to keep everybody listening to our wonderful.
Been worse. It could have been worse. I might have been a bosun's mate.
Well, thanks for sharing. I'm trying to get to the end of the meeting.
Yes, right.
All right. I don't know about Dave, any violations that you've seen, from.
No violations, but I actually do have something I meant to bring up early in the meeting, but I missed my opportunity. So
Well, you
maybe
can have
bring
it
it up
now.
now. Okay, so let's see. On the night of Christmas, late afternoon, early evening, a tree from Rauscher Farm fell, knocked out the power for 137 homes. I think we need to consider, at least put on the radar, taking down some of these dead trees there, which is kind of up across the street from Mark Steele, that section between the lean-to and further down
Yeah.
the road.
Which is where we've had problem. We have taken stuff down from there.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I know we have. But right now, if you do I did a quick walk over there, and I meant to
Yeah.
bring this up last month, but I couldn't make the meeting for some reason. But whatever the case, there are between 4 and 6 trees that I would consider kind of critical, because they're dead, and
Okay.
if they fall, basically, in a nutshell, not to drag this out, but in a nutshell, what happened was the tree snapped off halfway up, hit the line, the electrical line. That caused a short, and it blew out a I guess you call it a breaker down by the acre bar,
Yeah.
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 right at the corner of Wilson and Berlin Street. That knocked out the power for most of Wilson Street, all of Clamshell, and
Wow.
some other parts. And it was out for, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 hours, something like that.
Yeah, it was about 5
The,
hours. Yeah, cut
the,
our Christmas party short.
the town
Wow.
actually trimmed branches on those trees last
Yes.
year, so it needs more than what they
Yeah.
did last year, right?
So thank you. This is really important. I mean, we obviously, Rauscher Farm blew 137 Christmas parties.
I think it was 137. I think that was the number that I heard from
Oh,
somebody
okay.
else.
So what we need, and the town is very responsive about this because, when we know what they are,
Yep.
the ones that should come, the ones that are creating the problem, because it's all because having dealt with it before, because for Mark, to sort out Mark having the same problem,
Yep.
and then I can go to Brian
Yep.
facilities and say, okay, well, apparently we've just realized that 137 people's Christmas parties were sort of like Blue Christmas, and we need to address this for the community.
Mhm.
Okay, so we need to go and identify, maybe we need to tape those trees so we know what they are.
Well, here's the thing is, when I say between 4 and 6 trees that again, just I look at them, I think they're kind of critical because they look like they're kind of dead. So they're probably in,
Okay,
they're
yeah,
probably be the first
it's
ones to fall. But the reality is that there are a lot of trees in that area, which, as you know, are just all the rocks that were from the field. So they don't have good rooting there.
right.
Probably more apt. I mean, I think this is a big project. If we want to do it right, we'd probably take all of those trees down. But
We
like I
should
said,
we should reach out to the professional for Ryan,
yeah,
Farrager. No, not Farrager. That's the facilities director. The tree company, the one we like.
Brian Favreau.
Favreau.
Favreau. We should
Favreau.
get Favreau out to look at these trees, right?
Well,
Would
actually,
that be
the town should probably get him out because doesn't the town have to hire contractors to do the
no,
trees
Yes.
anyway?
that's right. And Favreau did take down the other ones, I think, that Mark
The,
Steele. No, so we have to say to Brian Farrager that
yes.
this has come up and we need to address the town needs to address this. And how does the town need to address this? Maybe by bringing out a special tree person to look at the trees because those cables are right there,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
When they took the ones down in back of my house, that wasn't Favreau. That was Kilburn Tree.
Okay,
They
okay,
they have a very big crane, so it was I have a feeling they may need to do a crane at this, but I don't know. I can't speak to it, but
okay.
I
So
would guess being
basically,
right by those power
uh,
lines, it's going to be
so
a,
be,
yeah.
so how about then based on so that on our behalf I write to Brian Farrager, the facilities director, and say we've learned this and we feel that the town needs to deal with this. So
Mhm.
Brian, how do you propose to deal with this on behalf of the town? Right?
Yeah,
Okay.
sounds great.
Well, thank you for bringing it up, Dave. That's
Certainly.
really important. We do, Rauscher Farm does try to gosh, I can't believe that. Christmas Day Eve.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. And it's pretty cold out. We went driving around and ended up finding the tree that fell, and I
Oh
ended
wow.
up moving some of it off the road myself, but whatever the
Oh
case,
dear.
it happens, right?
Day Eve. 137 lost power. Okay, we'll follow up on this. Thank you,
Great,
Dave.
of course.
Yeah, yeah. I based on that really great news. Uh,
Henceforth known as the Grinch tree.
it's very tricky that because it's those cables. It's the electricity. It's all the telly stuff, right? All of that stuff. And the trees just grew.
Yeah.
Okay, I believe if we check on our agenda, I believe we're done, all from confirming the date of the next meeting, which is March the 11th, because February only has 28 days, so it's the same date at 6. So at this point, I will entertain a motion to adjourn at 7:36, gang, and thank Christine for all your great chat stuff. That's really smashing, and Dave will send it to us because he's got the
Already did.
capability.
I
Yeah.
make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Okay. Who was the second? Sorry.
me.
Oh, DB.
Dave.
Okay, DN. Okay. First, second at 7:36. Sweet. Those in favor by roll call?
Dean, I.
Dave, I.
Christina,
Gloria, aye.
Al and I.
Jim, aye.
Okay. Well,
And
that
you,
was.
Gloria?
Oh, and me. Yes, Gloria. Yes, aye. Okay. Smashing, everybody. That was really very helpful. We will move along with everything. And so right now, I will do the first thing, which is, hang on, turn off the recording, wait for the board.